There was a girl named Zara. She lived in a grand mansion with marble floors, chandeliers, and big gardens. Zara was beautiful, wealthy, and loved by everyone, but inside, she felt empty. One summer, Zara met Arjun. He was poor, but kind and hard-working. Arjun lived in a small, old house on the edge of the city. He worked as a mechanic, fixing cars with his rough, oil-stained hands. Zara's car broke down one day, and that's how they met. Zara liked Arjun's smile, even though he was shy at first. Slowly, they began to talk more, finding reasons to meet. He would tell jokes, and she would laugh in a way she never had before. They started texting late at night, hiding their growing love from the world. Zara's parents, however, were very strict. They had already chosen a rich businessman for Zara to marry. When they saw her spending time with Arjun, they became furious. They warned her, "You cannot be with him, Zara. He is not our kind." Zara's heart broke, but she could not stay away from Arjun. They met in secret, under the stars, dreaming of a life together. Arjun would hold her close, whispering, "One day, we will run away and be happy." Zara and Arjun's secret meetings became more frequent. Every evening, when the world fell asleep, they would meet under the big banyan tree near the lake. It became their special place, away from everyone's judgment. One night, Zara was more anxious than usual. Her family had arranged a meeting with Rohan, the businessman they wanted her to marry. Rohan was perfect on paper, rich, charming, and came from a well-respected family. But Zara couldn't stand the thought of being with anyone but Arjun. As they sat by the lake, Zara couldn't hold back her tears. "My parents are forcing me, Arjun. They want me to marry him. I don't know what to do." Arjun clenched his fists, frustration burning in his chest. "You don't have to marry him, Zara. Run away with me. We'll start a new life, far from here." For a moment, Zara imagined it. A small house by the beach, waking up next to Arjun every morning, free from the weight of her family's expectations. But reality quickly crashed down. How could she leave everything behind? How could she live without her family's support, money, or status? Before she could respond, they heard footsteps. Someone was watching them. "Zara," a voice called out, deep and angry. It was her father. He had followed her, suspecting she was meeting Arjun. His eyes were filled with rage as he stormed toward them. "What do you think you're doing?" he shouted, grabbing Zara by the arm. "You have brought shame to this family, meeting this low-class boy in the dark." Zara pulled away, her heart pounding. "Father, I love him. Please understand. Love," her father spat. "Love means nothing. You will marry Rohan, and that's final." Arjun tried to step forward, but Zara's father pushed him back. "Stay away from my daughter. You're nothing but a poor mechanic. You'll never be good enough for her." Tears streamed down Zara's face as her father dragged her away. She looked back at Arjun, her heart breaking. "I'll find a way, Arjun. I promise." But things only got worse after that night. Rohan, the businessman, wasn't as perfect as he seemed. Zara's parents didn't know, but Rohan had a dark side. He was controlling, possessive, and had a reputation for being involved in illegal activities. But Zara's family, blinded by wealth and status, saw only his charm and success. Zara reluctantly agreed to meet Rohan again, trying to buy time to figure out a way to be with Arjun. During dinner, she noticed Rohan was constantly on his phone, receiving messages from unknown numbers. When she asked him about it, his smile turned cold. "Don't worry about it, darling. Just business," he said. But something in his tone made Zara uneasy. Later that night, while Rohan was distracted, Zara sneaked a look at his phone. What she found shocked her. Messages about shady deals, bribes, and threatening people who owed him money. Her heart raced as she realized Rohan wasn't just controlling, he was dangerous. Meanwhile, Arjun couldn't stop thinking about Zara. He knew her parents would do everything to keep them apart, but he wasn't ready to give up. He decided to confront her father, hoping to prove that his love for Zara was real, and he could provide for her, even without their wealth. Arjun went to Zara's mansion, nervous but determined. When he arrived, he saw something that made his blood boil. Rohan, standing too close to Zara, his hand gripping her wrist as she tried to pull away. Without thinking, Arjun rushed forward, pushing Rohan away. "Get your hands off her," he shouted. Rohan laughed, looking Arjun up and down. "You really think you can fight for her? You're nothing compared to me." But before Arjun could say anything, Zara stepped in. "I don't want you, Rohan. I never will," she said firmly. "I'm not some object you can control. I love Arjun, and I'm not marrying you." Rohan's face twisted in anger. "You'll regret this, Zara. No one says no to me. Now, Zara and Arjun's love is not only forbidden, but dangerous." Rohan, feeling humiliated, begins to plot against Arjun. He uses his power and connections to ruin Arjun's job, forcing him out of the garage he worked at. He even spreads false rumors, turning the community against him. Zara, trapped between her family and her love for Arjun, feels the pressure mounting. Her parents threaten to disown her if she continues to see Arjun. And now, Rohan's influence is making Arjun's life a living nightmare. But through it all, Zara and Arjun's love grows stronger. They secretly plan to run away together. But with Rohan's threats looming, they know their escape won't be easy. The night was colder than usual as Zara lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind raced with thoughts of Arjun and the impossible situation they found themselves in. She could hear her parents downstairs talking about the upcoming engagement with Rohan. Every word felt like a knife to her heart. Zara had to act quickly. The next morning, she secretly sent a message to Arjun. "We need to leave. Tonight, meet me by the banyan tree." Arjun's heart raced when he read her message. He knew this was their only chance, but running away meant leaving everything behind. His home, his family, and the small but honest life he had built. Still, the thought of a future without Zara was unbearable. He quickly began to pack a small bag, taking only what he needed. As the day wore on, Zara felt the walls closing in. Her parents had planned a dinner that night with Rohan's family, expecting her to smile and play the role of the perfect daughter. But inside, Zara's heart was breaking. She couldn't bear the thought of pretending any longer. Just before dinner, Zara snuck out of the house, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew her parents would soon realize she was gone, but by then, it would be too late. She ran through the streets, her silk dress catching on branches, as she hurried to the banyan tree where Arjun was waiting. When she arrived, Arjun was already there, pacing nervously. The moment he saw her, he rushed to her side, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Are you sure about this, Zara? Once we leave, there's no going back." Zara nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I don't care about the money, the mansion, or the life they planned for me. I only care about us." Unbeknownst to Zara, Rohan had been suspicious of her sudden distance. That night, when he arrived at her house for dinner, he immediately noticed her absence. Her parents, worried and confused, tried to call Zara's phone, but there was no answer. Rohan's face darkened. He knew exactly where Zara had gone. "We need to find her," he said, his voice calm but dangerous. "She's with us, isn't she?" Without waiting for a response, Rohan stormed out of the house, his driver already waiting outside. He had no intention of letting Zara go so easily. Zara and Arjun made their way to the edge of the city, where they had arranged for a small, battered car to take them to a distant village. They planned to start fresh, away from the prying eyes of their families and Rohan's powerful reach. As they drove, the reality of their decision began to sink in. Zara held Arjun's hand tightly, her mind swirling with both fear and excitement. "Do you think we'll be safe?" she asked softly. Arjun glanced at her, his expression serious. "As long as we're together, we'll be okay." But just as they neared the highway, the sound of an engine roared behind them. Zara looked back and felt her heart drop. Rohan's black SUV was speeding towards them. "Arjun, it's Rohan. He's found us." Arjun pressed his foot on the accelerator, but their old car struggled to pick up speed. Rohan's car grew closer, its headlights glaring in the rearview mirror. Zara's pulse quickened, and she gripped Arjun's arm. "We can't outrun him," Arjun said, panic creeping into his voice. "We need to find a way to lose him." Zara's mind raced. She spotted a narrow dirt road up ahead, barely visible in the dark. "Turn there!" she shouted. Arjun swerved onto the dirt road, the car bouncing over rocks and potholes. Rohan's SUV struggled to follow, its size making it difficult to navigate the narrow path. For a brief moment, Zara thought they might have escaped. But Rohan wasn't giving up that easily. The dirt road led to an abandoned farmhouse, surrounded by tall grass and thick trees. Arjun parked the car behind the building, hoping they could hide until Rohan gave up the chase. They ran inside, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. Just as they caught their breath, they heard the sound of Rohan's SUV pulling up outside. Zara's heart raced as she looked at Arjun. "We can't let him take me back." Arjun nodded, his jaw clenched. "I won't let him." The door burst open and Rohan stormed in, his eyes wild with anger. "Zara, this is over. Come with me now, or I'll make sure he never sees the light of day again." Zara stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. I'm not going anywhere with you, Rohan. I don't love you. I never did. Rohan's face twisted with rage. You think you can just walk away? You belong to me, Zara. Arjun stepped in front of Zara, his fists clenched. She doesn't belong to anyone. If you want her, you'll have to go through me. Rohan laughed coldly. You? You're nothing, Arjun. You think you can protect her from me? Before Arjun could respond, Rohan lunged at him. The two men struggled, fists flying as Zara watched in horror. Arjun, though strong, was no match for Rohan's size and fury. He was quickly overpowered, and Rohan pinned him to the ground. Zara's heart pounded in her chest. She had to do something. In a moment of desperation, Zara grabbed a heavy iron rod that was lying on the floor. With trembling hands, she raised it above her head and brought it down with all her strength, striking Rohan in the back. Rohan let out a cry of pain and collapsed to the ground, clutching his side. Zara dropped the rod, her whole body shaking. Arjun scrambled to his feet, pulling Zara into his arms. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't let him hurt you." They stood there for a moment, holding each other, as the reality of what had just happened sank in. Rohan lay unconscious on the ground, and they knew they couldn't stay there any longer. "We need to go," Arjun said softly. Now, the night was filled with tension as Zara and Arjun sped away from the farmhouse. Rohan lay unconscious, but they both knew it wouldn't be long before he recovered and came after them again. They had no time to waste. Arjun held Zara's hand tightly as he drove through the dark, the countryside rushing past them. "We can't keep running forever," Zara whispered, her voice filled with fear and exhaustion. Arjun nodded. "I know, but right now, we need to get as far away as possible." They drove in silence for hours, not knowing where they were headed, just following the empty roads. As the first light of dawn began to break, they found themselves in a small, remote village far from the city. Arjun stopped the car, and they both took a deep breath, realizing how much had changed in just a few hours. "We'll be safe here," Arjun said quietly, though he wasn't sure if he believed his own words. Zara leaned against him, her heart heavy with the weight of everything they had left behind. "What if they find us? What if Rohan—" Arjun placed his hand on her cheek, gently turning her face toward him. "No matter what happens, I won't let anyone take you away from me. We'll find a way, Zara. We'll build a life together, even if it's here in the middle of nowhere." Days passed, and for a brief time, it seemed like they had escaped. Zara and Arjun found a small cottage to rent in the village, living off their savings and keeping a low profile. They dreamed of a simple life, one where they could love freely without the constant threat of Rohan or Zara's family. But the peace didn't last. One morning, Zara received a phone call. It was her mother. "Zara, you need to come home now," she said, her voice trembling. "Rohan has filed a case against Arjun. He's accusing him of kidnapping you." Zara's heart sank. She knew this was Rohan's final attempt to break them apart. If they didn't return and face him, Arjun could be arrested, and their love story would end in tragedy. With no other choice, Zara and Arjun decided to return to the city and confront Rohan once and for all. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to fight for their love. When they arrived back in the city, they went straight to Zara's house. Her parents were waiting, along with Rohan and his lawyer. The tension in the room was palpable as Zara stood beside Arjun, her hand firmly in his. Rohan smirked as they entered. "So, you finally came back," he said coldly. "I told you, Zara, you can't escape me." Zara's mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Zara, please end this madness. You're destroying our family's reputation." Zara took a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm choosing love, Mom. I love Arjun, and I don't care about the money, the status, or anything else. If you can't accept that, then I'll walk away from all of it." Her father, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "Zara, you don't understand what you're giving up. A life with Rohan would secure your future. He's powerful, wealthy. He can give you everything." Zara shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "Everything except love." "I don't love him, Dad. I never will." Arjun stepped forward, his voice firm but respectful. "Mr. and Mrs. Mehra, I know I'm not the man you wanted for your daughter. I don't have money or power, but I love Zara more than anything in this world. I'll work hard to give her a good life, and I promise I'll never let her down. All I ask is that you let us be happy." For a moment, the room was silent. Rohan's smirk faded as he realized he was losing control of the situation. Zara's father looked at Arjun, his expression softening. "You're a good man, Arjun," he said quietly. "I've seen how much Zara cares for you, but this decision, it's hers to make." Zara's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time, her father was giving her the freedom to choose her own path. Rohan, however, wasn't ready to give up. "This isn't over," he snarled, stepping toward Arjun. "You think you can just take her away from me? You'll regret this." Zara stood between them, her voice calm but resolute. "It is over, Rohan. You can't control me anymore." Rohan glared at them, but he knew he had lost. Without another word, he turned and stormed out of the house. Zara's parents, though heartbroken, finally accepted her decision. They realized that forcing her into a loveless marriage would only cause more pain in the long run. Zara and Arjun left the house, hand in hand, knowing that their journey was far from over. They had faced countless obstacles, but their love had survived. Now they could finally begin to build the life they had always dreamed of, one filled with love, trust, and hope for the future. As they walked away from Zara's family home, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the city. It was the end of one chapter, but the beginning of a new one. A chapter where love, not wealth or status, would guide their path. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear. Zara and Arjun were ready to face it together.